Oh, I know, the other one is around the corner. Let me go get it. But I want the bigger one here. You'll see there's one that's like 2 inches wider. There. Part of its weight, I'm thinking about the brightness, the saturation of the color, the density, darkness of it. Like, this is pretty dark, these are pretty dark. Light and playful and joyful. And it's why I put it in the mat to feature it in the show, because it shows Kevin with a great sense of joy and spontaneity. At the end of his life, I don't know if he was sick or knew he was sick when he painted this, but here he is painting these such a beautiful, light way.
Kevin was loved deeply by his family, by his friends, by his colleagues from the art world. He was genuine to his core. He truly loved humanity. He's as good as God makes him.
Kevin was one of the most gentle, kind, thoughtful, sensitive people I knew. He was able to talk for hours about art, but about emotions, and he was incredibly sensitive. He wanted to express the whole range of emotions in his paintings.
When he put his paintings down, I was just dumbstruck. I could not believe that somebody like out of the shadows did beautiful work like this.
I really love all of it. I love the wide range he does and the versatile styles he's worked on over the years. And for me personally, because I've known him so long, I have various memories. You know, I remember when he brought those two in and unwrapped them from his backpack and showed me different things. And I think he's an iconic Portland artist. And I think he's also one that's more obscure that not as many people know, because he will just hide out and paint for a long time, but his reach goes all over Portland for decades too.
Well, Kevin was definitely a selfless artist, I would say. So he was reclusive. He definitely needed to get in his zone. He would talk about that.
Everybody would probably recognize and remember his conversationality, his talkativeness.
And he wasn't an instructor. He didn't have a reputation of being famous in town. He was this guy that just hung out and around the art studios and around the art stores and the Kinkos, and he just was really in love with life. And so when I took on the first job of his, I really wanted to impress him, because it's like, this is a guy I want in my life more than it, because he just had so much to offer with his artwork alone, not even talking to him. And so I put in a lot of extra effort on those copies, and maybe there was a dozen of them. And when he got them back, he was so impressed, so happy with them. And then we struck up a friendship.
So he would meet an artist and a student that was up and coming, or somebody who wanted to be up and coming, and they would want to go into long conversations about a pigment or a style or a technique or a certain kind of brush, and boy, Kevin could talk. He would go on for hours and give you a lecture on everything to do with every bristle on that brush.
He's a Midwest boy that left home, went to New York, and continued to develop his work to this became a phenomenal artist. And his skills, he really, as Nancy's letter said, showed from really day one when he was a young boy.
And what we have here is a fantastic wall, a glimpse into Kevin's childhood, maybe even through high school. And I can definitely detect marks that he continued throughout his life.
Kevin was a very sweet man and very creative, and always willing to talk about his art, which was the best part of buying it, is you knew something about it because he was able to tell you what he was thinking. And then as I watched him continue to paint over many years through Froelick's gallery, he evolved and changed, and he inspired me with every painting. He also sent a letter to us from Paris the envelope was painted, and it arrived perfectly, so it was a really special piece that we have framed as well.
Last year in 2025, Kevin and I started planning this current show He wanted it to include or be entitled Recent Landscapes and Cityscapes. It was to include a broad series of new paintings based on his studies of the African landscape. He'd never been there, but it was a magnificent painting series. Incredible color, the most exuberant paintings I'd ever seen from him. But now it's a memorial exhibit. So the challenge is making sense of Kevin's life. In a sense, I feel that responsibility because I worked with him since 1994, and I want to present elements, select pieces from series from throughout the time he and I worked together. This one is from the Ghost series, he titled it, and definitely I would say Kevin had some ghosts that haunted him throughout his life. I know Kevin saw the world differently than I do, and most of us. So this is from 2005. And the great thing is he could make the painting. He was working with water media with this, like gouache and acrylic, so he could make the painting and then when it was dry, put it back into the box.
I think Kevin's work really speaks to me, and whether it's landscapes or the more fantastical ones, which I always chose those first, there was something in Kevin that was so creative and so out of the box that he could capture with paint and paper, and it always inspired me, so I loved the more interesting pieces, I'll say.
So the trajectory that Kevin took in his life is pretty fantastic. He went from ochre, umber, burnt umber, sienna to this, his very last series of paintings in his life. These were at the base founded on his studies of the African continent. He was reading about every region, the languages, the migrations, the politics, and he was eloquent about it, and he felt so strongly that he wanted to go visit there one day. So he started a new series. This one is a culmination of a lot that was going on in Kevin's mind. There's psilocybin in the barnyard. That's the series. He made 2 of these paintings. One of them, or they have a procession of animals, and you can see all the way down to a little field mouse and animals in the trees, birds watching, and then this fantastic architecture. I don't know what he was thinking, where this place was, where it was located, if it was outer space, if it was where, who knows.
Kevin was tuned in to the field of infinity. He was a visionary artist. I believe he probably traveled to other dimensions to get his imagery, or they just entered him. And I mean, you can see by the work itself how strange it can be. And some of it is very grounded. His landscapes, you know, have obvious influences, I think. But yeah, his imagery came from, I think, all dimensions.
His work has this sort of mythic overlay. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's a nude posing in a drawing studio. It feels like this is somebody from a Greek myth, you know. And I feel like the work is really strong and evocative in those kind of resonant ways.
This 1996 figure painting by Kevin is the earliest work in the show. It's exemplar of the early series that Kevin and I presented together, where he would make these finely articulated figures. A figure like this would emerge from a mysterious landscape like this.
The beauty of Kevin is his heart. He really had an amazing heart, an amazing love for painting and for teaching about it.
I met Kevin in probably 1995 or 1996, working in an art supply store, and had many conversations with him over the years. But one of my favorite things to do, every time he would come in, he would spend a lot of hours sifting through all the used oil paint bins and looking at all the pigments with his magnifying glass and talking to employees and drawing in crowds of customers, sometimes talking. And I had to be kind of careful and only like let my employees talk to him for a little while. Like after maybe an hour, I'd be like, okay, we got to get back to work. And then I'd let like another employee circle around so that my employees could learn from him.
And I think what I would take from Kevin is a willingness to, a kind of fearlessness. Within this collection of work, it's evident from one piece to the next how fearless he was in experimentation. And that, I think, would be the most important thing that I would take from his work.
I met him 20 years ago when I was learning how to paint. And he just took me and brought me in a coffee shop and said, okay, I'll teach you a little bit how to paint. So he just took a little envelope and started painting, and he was able to capture light, as you can see here in the landscapes. The light that he was able to capture was amazing, and we have 2 paintings of him at home of his landscapes, which are beautiful. He just he knew things about painting very deeply, and you just sit and listen. He would tell you all the details, and he would be happy to do that.
There's an exuberance in the way he handles paint, not just in terms of the color, but in terms of the brushstrokes and how things kind of resolve. And there's a richness to his imagination that you see kind of flowing onto his rectangles.
He would talk to you about the work in depth, so you knew he was invested in what you were doing. He wanted to know about your colors, your techniques, your approach, your history, and he would compliment you, and then in a very gentle way challenge artists too. And I think that was really a benefit for the community to have Kevin with us as long as we did.
I think it's been 31, 32 years that I've seen him in art stores for hours, and I wish I could count how many artists I saw him encourage or talk about pigments or really turn the light on for them.
This was the last frame that Kevin and I met and discussed in late November last year. The minutia of what goes into even prepping the piece of paper to accept the paint, that's our conversation right there. And then we get into the mixing of the paint and the brushes, and what the painting is about almost never gets into the discussion. The sense of the unknown with this painting, the way the boat is plunging into this vast crevasse and we don't know what's on the other side, it was hard for me to not reflect on this painting after I knew Kevin was gone, and just wondering what he was thinking about this one, and knowing I could never know. There's just a wonderful mystery about it.
I think what's brilliant about some of Kevin's work is that landscape is sort of implied, but it isn't explicit. It's not very clear. So these works can easily be abstract.
I remember many girlfriends that he had, but I think painting was his primary relationship. The act of painting itself was really what I think, he was here for, but he was the kindest person.
Kevin said he would listen to white noise, like when you're in between radio stations on the dial and it's not catching anything except static. He said he would listen to that so that it would cover up the chatter of people talking in the painting and drawing studio, and if people came up to him and tried to talk to him, he would shoo them away. He was very focused on his painting when he painted.
He would be so focused, and in that trance stage when he was, working on certain pieces of art, that he would just kind of be lost in that world. And sometimes it would take a long time for certain pieces to get done.
Kevin was a painter's painter, and there's no doubt about it. He was the painter that every painter talked about. You didn't hear collectors talk about him. You didn't hear gallerists talk about him. You heard other painters talk about him. And if his name came up, people were like, oh yeah, that guy's fucking good. That guy can frickin' paint. And what I mean by that is he was so pensive,
Enigmatic and interesting and unexpected in the same
he
way.
was just too humble for anything, to bring particular attention to him.
Yeah, I wish you had met him. He was a good one.
From one piece to the next, how fearless he was in experimentation.
The beauty of Kevin is his heart. He really had an amazing heart and amazing love for painting.
Thanks for checking out our artist videos. This is Froelick Gallery's 30th anniversary. Hope you'll hit the like button and subscribe so you'll be up to date with all of our artist stories.